Today is November 5th, 2022. I saw my doctor this week on Wednesday, and she was super happy with my health, super happy with my scars. Apparently, my scars look like at 4 months more what would be like six and a half months, maybe even further for some folks. So she was really happy about that, pleased about that. I saw my surgeon on a virtual appointment on Friday, and he said the same thing. He wanted a picture of it because he thought it was so good. So, like my chest here, I'll lift up a little. My chest is in the silicone tape, and the silicone tape really makes a big difference. Like, apparently, and when I don't have the silicone tape on and I, let the scars breathe or whatever, I still try to put lotion on them, and my chest has just been healing super well. I had the one place where the stitch pulling was, and that's slightly reddish colored, and then the rest of my scars are like soft pink colored. I also just, I don't know, it runs in my genetics. I scar well. So, yay, that's all good. Wonderful news. My doctor was pretty happy with my health overall. Really excited about it. And my surgeon and I talked more about bottom surgery stuff. And because it wasn't an in person appointment, we did have to talk and not nail something down, which was frustrating. But he said instead of trying to schedule me an independent consult for the parts of stuff that has to be done in person, we talked things through pretty thoroughly at this point, because I talked with the other surgeon and now I've talked with my main surgeon, and he said what he's going to do is when my surgery is finally on the schedule, which who knows when that's going to happen, but when it happens, he's going to go ahead and schedule a mini consult appointment thing there and just go in while I'm under, and I've already given permission for this and stuff, but he's going to take measurements, he's going to search stuff, and he's going to check the nerves on possible donor site. And he said he'll check my thigh, but the likelihood is that it'll have to be my forearm, which I was expecting. He said if it's my thigh at my weight, it could very much end up being that I have a phallus that is not really functional. Like, it takes a lot of liposuctions afterward to try to fix it, because your first liposuction to try to fix it would be like an 80% ability, and then after that it'll be like a 50% ability, and then after that it's like a 20% ability. Like, how much can be liposuctioned and how much can be helped goes down each time that you have to do it. And so it can end up being really just a ton of trying to fix it. And I'm on Medicaid. I doubt they're going to want to pay for that. And secondly, that's a lot of surgery, like a lot. And I already struggle with doctors, so that's a struggle too. The one plus side to it being from your forearm over your thigh is your forearm does have the highest rate of sensation. So that's an extremely important thing to me, and that's exciting about radial forearm. The bad thing about it is it's your arm. And I definitely, it's not as much the visuals of it, although obviously that's not very comfortable to have a big scar on your arm that anyone can see at any time. On your thigh, it's more discreet, but I was going to get a medical tattooing, and then if necessary, an actual tattoo over the scarring, no matter what anyway, whether it was on my thigh or my forearm. But what's really scary to me is the possibility of loss of function in your hand. If you've got some numbness in your leg, it's not as big of a deal to me as numbness like in my thumb, or like the risk of it that is decently lower, but it's still there. And as a person who does stuff with their hands a lot, who video games a lot, who does art stuff a lot, who really does chores and everything else all with my hands, a little unnerving that there's a risk to my hands, but at the same time, I have needed this phalloplasty for so long. What's really frustrating is I still am not on the schedule and still have no idea if that means it's like a month from now or if that means it's like 3 or 4 months from now. I don't know. I don't know what's happening with the current surgery. And now it is keeping me from getting electrolysis because, on the one hand, I don't have to worry about trying to schedule a different consult and that being like months from now, which would be frustrating. But on the other hand, I don't know when my surgery is, and that's super frustrating. This one surgery is keeping everything else from moving forward, and they're really confident and pretty like direct about how it's going to go once the surgery happens. So if I can just get this surgery to happen, that would be amazing. He said that it could be 3 to 6 months after this surgery when I can get the next one, depending on how well electrolysis takes. Um, he's willing to do it 3 months. If my electrolysis goes really well, I don't know that that's going to happen. I have very hairy arms, but they're very blonde, like strawberry blonde colored hairs. So the hairs look really difficult to see. And, you know, dark hair with pale skin is the best combo and for like hair removal options. And I have like pale skin, so that's something, but I do not have dark hair. Um at all. So yeah. I don't know that 3 months is going to be enough, but one can hope. My biggest thing is I really, really would love for this to all happen and everything before the next 2 years is done. And that means there being no complications, and that means there not being horrible delays on anything that are basically arbitrary delays at this point. But if it can happen within the next 2 years, it happens before the next presidency and, possible like laws shifting or my ability to do this going away. It happens before I turn 40, even if it's just barely before I turn 40. Um, Still, before 40 is still a big deal, like a really big deal for me. Um, it would mean a tremendous amount. It's still better than when I was worried about getting it before 45. So that's still a big, upgrade that, at the latest, it's looking like it would be 41 when it got done or so. But even once it's all done, I still have to wait a year after the final surgery to get the medical tattooing and the actual tattoos. You can't do anything on the scars until it's been a year. So it's not going to be done until a year after that. But if the surgeries and stuff are done by 40, then that's still a tremendous thing by itself. Medical tattooing is like tattooing that's meant to blend the color of the scarring into this color of your skin. It just helps make it less noticeable. It's not going to change that there's raised skin or sunken in skin in places that's happened, but it can make it so that it's a lot less glaringly noticeable because your skin color doesn't have like these major changes and shifts in gradation of color. So I really, really want to get started with my phalloplasty stuff. But I have to have the surgery first for the hysterectomy, vaginectomy, and the flap. They're combining that hysterectomy with stage one, phase one, so that part of it has already healed when they go to do the actual phase one, so that it'll be easier to do and it will be better healing overall. And that's all fine. That's great. That's wonderful. It's just this surgery, man. I was supposed to be basically preparing to have it like I was supposed to have it like in the middle of November or whatever. So, it could have been it like next week, and you can't control some things are just completely unexpected, outside of your ability to do anything about, and this is just one of those things that I just gotta deal with and accept, and yeah. But at least my top surgery went super super well, and everything healed super well, and everybody's really thrilled about it. It makes things less worrisome going into bottom surgery. um he didn't seem like uncomfortable with trying to keep skin glands in tact, which was something that I really wanted. I He asked a little bit about the urethral lengthening, and yeah, most everything's fine. It's just he has to see me in person, and he's gonna do that while I'm under, which is great. That saves me some trauma there, and it saves him some frustration. But at the same time, I don't know when the surgery is, so I don't know when that's gonna happen. But it will happen sooner than a consult would, because a consult right now is booking out past 2 months. So he's hoping that the surgery will be before that, and this would be the better solution. I'm hoping that as well. I genuinely am hoping that too. I I have been still taking my testosterone and everything fine. The balding definitely seems to have stopped. It just receded just slightly. Just my hairline receded ever so slightly into those corners, and that was it. That was all. So that, I mean, knock on wood, but that seems to be it. So yay. Otherwise, I don't know of anything else that's changed or that's different. It's all still pretty much all the same. I am trying to do better with the rest of my life and things, and there's been a lot of pressure on me to like be happy and move on and go forward with my life and start doing other things and not be hampered or hindered, or however you want to say it, by the other things that have gone on in my life. I really struggled to be open about it. I did finally talk to my best friend about it. She basically was, supportive and stuff, but she didn't know the other person involved very much. Um, my girlfriend has been very, and we did talk about it, and she apologized, but she's been very ready to be over it and moved on herself. And so it's been frustrating for her that I am taking longer to get over it and having a harder time with it, and so impacted by it. But at the same time, um, I was I was with this person involved for almost a literal decade, and like their care was the center of everything for me, and um, everything revolved around them. And essentially, my wife is separated from me, and we're getting a divorce, and she will soon be my ex-wife. And that's been very difficult for me. I was very blindsided by it, and um, the timing couldn't have possibly been worse. I was in recovery. I was on bed rest and supposed to be trying to heal from top surgery. Um, and it's been difficult in so many ways, and there's some things about it that have been, I think, better. Like having a girlfriend means I haven't been alone, and having a savings means I'm not homeless, even though she broke like the lease and the contract and everything. Um, I can afford to pay out the rest of the lease, thankfully. Um, there's things that are like that are important. But there's been some things about it that have been extremely difficult. And it's interesting because when you have a long-term relationship like that, most people I know would like take some time for themselves and not even date unless they just did a rebound thing. But a rebound thing's not looking for a relationship; it's just looking to bang. There's this time period where you build yourself back up, and for me in specific, in my situation, I have to rebuild everything because everything was built around her, and I don't have space. I am in a relationship because we were polyamorous, and that's difficult. And I know it's been difficult for our girlfriend because when she left, she also broke up with her, and it was a very abrupt. Like it was almost overnight. Like it was extremely fast, and there was no communication. Um, Very, very fast. And again, I was supposed to be in recovery. And I was trying so hard to get up and do something about it. And at the same time, I was not supposed to be getting up at all. And it was really horrible. And I've definitely had some emotional struggles. I'm trying to make myself better from this. I'm trying to work really hard, and there's been some people who have felt like I wasn't trying hard enough and that I'm not doing enough and that I'm not making enough changes fast enough and stuff. And there's just been a lot of pressure to get past it as much and as fast as possible, and that's been very hard for me because I feel like I'm doing my best, and I feel like I'm doing a lot better than a lot of people would be at this point. I feel like, it's only been 2 months, basically. Um, it's a little over 2 months, but like, it's it's a difficult thing when everything in your world revolves around someone else. And I've been, because they just sort of left and disappeared, they left all their stuff, they left everything in shambles. So I've had to go through all of their stuff and sort through it. And this is stuff that, like, when they moved in with me, they brought because they insist on keeping it. And then when they needed a specialist and we had to move to New York for it, I got rid of almost everything I owned. And she wanted to keep a lot of her stuff. She wouldn't get rid of very much. So then I had to carry all that stuff to New York in my car and shove it as full of her stuff as possible. And all of my stuff basically was a hope chest, a computer, and the stuff that could fit in the hope chest. And a little bit of clothes, but that was it. Like I brought almost nothing. I kept almost nothing. I had a house full, 2-bedroom house full of stuff, and I got rid of almost every single thing. And then when we left New York, I shoved everything into the car, but then we had a girlfriend and her stuff had to come too. And they brought 4 suitcases of stuff, and I drove, and they got to fly first class and bring a bunch of stuff. And then I drove with the car full of stuff again. And she wanted to keep so much stuff that they ended up having to ship some boxes because she wouldn't let go of stuff. And she wanted to keep so much stuff. And then we move in here and she accumulates a little bit more stuff, and we replace the few things that she let go of, get her some new stuff, and then she just leaves all of it. Just drops all of it. And I have had to sort through it and organize it and figure out what to do about it and with it and donate and throw away and all this stuff, like all of her records. And because she had so many medical health conditions, it's like a ridiculous amount of shredding, and it's just sorting through all of it has been such a struggle. But I also felt like I had to, because I got rid of almost everything I owned, and it has to have somehow, like I've made a tremendous amount of sacrifices, and it can't all have just been for nothing. Um, and next week I'm going to the dentist for the first time in like 4 or 5 years. Um, it might be 4 years. 4 years, I think it's 4 years. And I was supposed to go to the dentist after they pulled my teeth out, and I couldn't do that because just them pulling the teeth out, she almost couldn't handle that. She needed constant, near constant attention, and she needed 24/7 care. And yeah, and I finally did something that I needed to do for me, and it wasn't okay. And I can't take back that I got the surgery, and I wanted the surgery, and I'm grateful for the surgery. I'm glad about the surgery in every way except that it means I'm a divorcee. And we talked beforehand, and she was happy about it. But yeah, it just didn't work out. And it sucks, but I have been a lot less down. um, I've been trying to do things and find closure because I'm definitely never gonna get it from her. um, I've been sending her some of her stuff, and my girlfriend got mad because I'm still being accommodating, because I still am acquiescing to anything she wants, even though she's not here anymore. And my girlfriend doesn't want to do that. She wants to say, hey, she's not here anymore, screw her, you know. And my girlfriend's very fed up with the amount of catering that is required when doing stuff with my soon to be ex-wife. And I mean, I did that our entire relationship, so that's still my habit. That's still my mannerism, however you want to say that. I'm gonna try really hard not to continue that in future relationships and going forward and stuff. And you know, with my girlfriend, but I'm I'm doing my best. And having the surgeries and having transition has been something positive to hold on to and to think about the future of, while I've been having to refigure out what my future looks like, because I thought I knew what my future looked like, and it does not look like that anymore. Um, but at least the surgery should still happen, hopefully, and my future should still have the me in it who feels like they're allowed to exist. Um, I feel like Like, I've had to make so much work just to be allowed to exist. And having having the hope of not having to do that to hold on to has helped me a lot, to get through things. And it's interesting because unfortunately some people have thought some very bad things about me, um, things even that weren't true. And if she needs to do that, she needs to do that. But that's not how I am. I don't want that to be how I am. That's not how I do things. So I don't want people to think bad of her. But it was very telling to me. My doctor, we had, even before we went to New York, when we moved back here and got out of New York, which I was very relieved to do. I did not like it in New York, really. But when I got back here, one of the first things I wanted was my doctor back, because I have such a problem with doctors, and she is so patient and kind and understanding. And when I would freak out, she wouldn't freak out, and help me get to a place where I wasn't freaking out anymore. And she also is trans um, care certified and stuff like that. So my doctor was very important to me to get back. But my doctor, before we went to New York, was also my spouse's doctor. We both had the same doctor, and it was very close to my house, was why. And when we got back, we got a doctor that was much closer for my spouse, because we live now no longer where we used to live. When we came back to Washington, we basically moved about an hour away from where we lived originally, and so I was willing to drive the hour to go see my doctor. But my spouse, again, had so many health issues that it didn't make sense to do that. And my doctor, after my appointments with her, would always say, "Hey, tell her hi," because she was both of our doctor before. And she was very happy when I, came back, and I was so excited to be her patient again and stuff. She was happy to have me as a patient again. She was not like, not this annoying person or anything like that. She was very warm about it. And so, because of her having been both our doctors and her always saying, "Oh, hey, say hi," and stuff like that, I went ahead and told her that we were getting a divorce. And I didn't say anything other than that. I just said, this is difficult to talk about, but basically, we're getting a divorce. And the first thing out of her mouth was, "Oh, this will be so good for you." And I wasn't expecting that. um, with a lot of the people that we both mutually knew, I've had to explain, and I've had to um, deal with the fact that a lot of people that I thought were my friends were not my friends, and believed really bad things about me, and decided not to talk to me anymore and stuff. And this is a doctor, this even just this is a woman, my doctor is a female, that I have a lot of respect for. Like, she actually started out as my spouse's doctor. I had kind of thought, well, maybe I don't want doctors after the previous one, and the one before that was the one who was like, "Hey, maybe, there's something here to see about, you might be intersex," and I couldn't hear that. And then the next one, was the one basically who told me, "Oh, you don't need to take iron anymore. even though I've been diagnosed with anemia since I was 16, and was just not as good of a doctor. She wasn't mean, she just wasn't that great. So I didn't really necessarily want to keep going to the doctor. And then when that woman left, she got replaced with my current doctor. And when she got replaced with her, my spouse still needed a doctor, so I took her to several of her appointments, and this woman was very different. She was such a personable, like, easygoing, like, smiley person, and she also seemed to know her stuff. That's another thing. She's never been wrong about anything about my health, which was very interesting to me. So I took a chance and went to an appointment with her, and one of the first things that came up was stuff about pap smears and stuff, and I kind of freaked out, and I leapt up out of my chair, and I startled, and I ended up hiding in a corner, and she didn't freak out. She stayed nice and calm and just sat there in her chair talking to me, and she was like, I have to ask this. It's important to ask this, and once a year, I'm gonna ask you, and all you need to do is say, you know what, I don't need to do that. And I will say, hey, insurance wants to make sure you know that this is a thing that is recommended for your health that you need to do once a year. If it's, abnormal, and, once every like 3 to 5 years if it's not. And I said, I understand that that's what they recommend. And she said, okay, then that's all that needs to be said. And next year when I ask you, all you need to say is that and that. And we don't have to stress. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. And she's just always been that way. She's always been the kind of person who tells you exactly what she thinks, exactly what's going to happen. She lays it out for you. But she also is very like patient and understanding about it. She always tells me before she needs to like put the stethoscope against me or something. She's only physically, like with her actual hands, touched me twice in years of her being my doctor. She always finds a way to use like a popsicle stick or the stethoscope or something to touch me instead of she herself touching me. Like when I told her about the divorce, she was like, I'd give you a hug, but I know you don't want one. So just know the sentiment is there. Like she's just that way. She's very quick to reassure me. Like I don't have to bring up that I'm scared of doctors. I brought it up. She realized how true it was, and she's just been great about it ever since. And because of her, I slowly over time got more and more confidence to talk to doctors, and now I can talk to my surgeons and not totally panic. Although with the one surgeon I definitely got close. But like my main surgeon, he had to touch me at a certain point. He had to touch my chest in order for me to have my surgery. And I was able to get through that. And I would never have been able to do that without my PCP. So I have so much respect for her. And the first thing she said when I told her was, oh, this will be so good for you. And that was extremely impactful to me because it's coming from someone I respect and appreciate. It's coming from someone who I know is really honest and really patient. And also it's coming from someone who I know knows me. I know knows, who's soon to be my ex-wife, and knows her like diagnoses, knows all of her disorders, knows all of her mental disorders, all of her physical disorders, everything across the board, knows all about it, has seen us, together at appointments, has seen all of the good, the bad, all of it, to at least a certain degree. And her first reaction was that. And she was like, you're on this path, and I'm so proud of you because you're inspiring, and it's a difficult path, and it's already hard because you're scared of doctors, you're scared of the surgery, having to deal with the doctors for it, and yet you're doing it. And you promised me that if I referred you, you'd follow through with all testing. And you have kept your promise, and you're doing it. You're doing the things that you are terrified of doing. She even noticed I did the ultrasound, the external ultrasound, even though I had just done it on Monday. And she still was like, you're doing these things, and you're going through something really hard, like losing a uh, long-term significant relationship, one of the most important relationships in your whole life, and you're still on the path to being the person that you always should have been. And I genuinely believe you're going to end up with the person that you should have always been with. And I just, I wasn't expecting that at all. I didn't expect her to have such an opinion. Like, and I thought about it. I've known this woman so long that I remember when she had her boyfriend, and now like they're married and a family and stuff. Like I've known her for a really long time. So it's like our the whole time that I was with my ex-wife, soon to be, a lot of people thought, wow, I couldn't do that. And I thought, when you love somebody, you just do. You just do it. You make sacrifices. You make a lot of sacrifices. And you just do it. But I thought, when people said that it's not healthy, that sometimes you have to do things whether it's healthy or not, and you just have to do them. Like, the other person's dependent on you to live, and that's that. Like, there's no way around it. And my current therapist has been very positive about it, and like, this is good for you. Um, my previous therapist would probably be really glad about it. I haven't told her because she actually thought that I could never get past a certain point in therapy unless I wasn't in the relationship I was in. And she wanted me to know that, like, very clearly, that I would never be able to better myself past a certain point because my entire, you know, life was wrapped around one person and taking care of them, and the person was not me. Um, I was not at the top of priority listness at all. And when my doctor said that to me, and it's this person that I've known so long and have so much respect for, and her very first reaction was that, it was very impactful to me. Like, I've been being told it a lot, that, my life should be about me or whatever, but for some reason, that, I think it's because of who it came from. She also said that I'm the kindest person that she's ever met in her entire life. And she's a doctor. She meets a lot of people. So I was very surprised by that too. Um, because I think of her as one of the kindest people I've ever met. So I was very surprised that she thought that. And maybe it's partially because when stuff happened, again, there were people who believed really bad things about me, um, whether they were necessarily true or not. And I think it got to me some, that I felt like, well, am I as bad as people say? Am I the someone who does this? Like, do I deserve this? Like, I actually, you get treated like you're the bad guy, and you wonder if you really are the bad guy, even if logically you can see stuff that you've done that's like the opposite of that, and you can even recognize the things that you did wrong and the things that you messed up on, and still recognize that they don't warrant the level of reaction that came at you. And I don't I guess what it was that when I told her that we were getting divorced, I was expecting to have to explain. I was expecting that maybe she would think less of me or she would think some sort of bad thing about me, and that was like the opposite. And not everyone has thought bad things about me. There have been people who have been very kind and supportive about stuff, but for the majority part, they're people who were basically already in my life. Like, for instance, my mom was already my mom, you know. Um, and then there's been people that I thought decently highly of me, and it turns out that they think I'm like horrible, and I would never have guessed it. I would never have thought that ever. So it's been a difficult thing because part of me thinks, well, you would think they'd hear something bad like that and then think, I've known this person for this amount of time and they've never been like that, so obviously this can't be true. But then at the same time, I don't know how much I would want people to think that way, because as much as I do wish people could think that way, sometimes people are like secret, pedophiles or something, or like a predator, and they're really good at pretending they're a good person, and then, turns out they're really awful. But sometimes people make you out like you're really awful when you're not. And it's really hard, I'm sure, for people to judge stuff like that. And all I can hope is that people see me and the years of me. And again, I've absolutely done things that are wrong and made mistakes and stuff. I absolutely have, but not to the degree, not to the exaggeration that has been made out like. And I think when my doctor reacted that way, it was like somehow I had permission to not feel guilty. And other people had been giving me permission, like my therapist or my girlfriend, but they had been doing it in a way that was like, oh, you should be thrilled, or oh, you should be so happy, or oh, you should be ready to move on, or oh, screw that, or whatever, like you were abandoned, like treat it like that. Um, and I just don't respond to that, I guess, the way that they wanted me to. I don't react to that. My emotions and stuff aren't just gonna shut off or whatever. But when my doctor was happy for me, it was a happy for me that had no pressure behind it, but just like hope behind it. It was very, you're going to get through this. And when you finally do, whenever that is, it's going to be good. It was that kind of a feeling, which worked a lot better for me. It helped a lot more for me. And so she was really happy about, my health and my scars and the healing. And, I did labs and la, 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 all this stuff, right? There's lots to be happy about. But she was also happy about seeing me as I was, as someone who was hurting, but also the kindest person she had ever met. And someone that she was proud of and that she thought was inspiring. And it meant a lot to me. It really, really did. And hopefully I will be able to move forward and go forward and do a lot better. I've been definitely struggling a lot, and I don't know that this means that the struggle will decrease at all or anything like that. I mean, I've struggled even today, so probably not, because she said this on Wednesday, and I've struggled every day since, at least a little bit, but I do feel like when I'm not struggling, it's a lot less there. Like before, I felt like even when I was doing something else, that it was there, looming, hunching over my shoulders. And now I feel like it's like in a backpack, and the backpack zipped up, and I'm doing something, and there just happens to be a backpack on my back. Um, and then it comes out, and then it's obviously more in my face, but it's a lot less in the foreground. Like I can be doing something else and fully think about the something else for a little bit before it comes back up, which um, I don't know, but I feel like that's a good sign. And that started after my doctor said the things that she said. So massively helpful. And that my surgeon is trying to find a way to get the electrolysis and the phalloplasty and everything going is helpful too. Like I feel like my main surgeon and his cohort or whatever are really supportive, really nice, both of them. It's just this surgeon that they've tossed me with because the other one left for the hysterectomy and stuff that I'm afraid of. I'm definitely afraid of her. And it's funny because my main surgeon is a male, and I feel very like safe around him, that he's not gonna like touch me or do anything or poke or prod me or make it more difficult. And you would think that I'd feel more that way with a woman, but there's just something about this woman that scares the crap out of me, that she's just gonna invade my space in any second. Like I I know it's not rational. Most phobias are not rational. Doesn't change that they're terrifying. But I've been thinking a lot more about the future, and hopefully these 2 boxes that I have packed up are the last 2 boxes I need to send her to my soon-to-be ex-wife, and then I can start sorting her stuff into what I'm gonna do with it as a final finish, and maybe be able to start getting some sort of sense of moving forward. But yeah, it's been a interesting few months, for sure. I guess it's more like 2.5 months. Yeah. Anyway, and it's almost 4 months since I had the surgery. Actually, I guess it's coming up on 3 months, not too long from now. In a couple of weeks. I just feel like most people, when they have a breakup or a serious relationship ends, they have space to process it and get through it, and I'm having to do it not that way. But I'm doing my best. Believe it or not, I'm doing my best. Anyway, that's about where I am right now. I finally got up the ability to talk about it more, probably again because of what my doctor said. And I have been doing a lot of therapy, like a lot of therapy, so I'm trying to do the right things. I don't know what more to do besides that, but to try to do the right things. It's like that song in like Frozen 2, do the next right thing. or take the next right step or whatever it is. I don't remember. Anyway, that's me at the moment. Do the next right thing.